share something with you, a way of looking at the world, at life. Now, you may already do this or not. And as you listen, do it as much as you can with nothing on your mind and see where it lands. Here's something I've noticed. The quality of how we lead, how we make decisions, how we show up with and for people, and how we handle the tough moments. It doesn't really come down to how much we know or how experienced we are, or even how good our strategy is. It comes down to something much simpler than that. And that is the awareness we bring. And that awareness traces back to an assumption most of us have never consciously made, but they're living from every single day. There are essentially two ways of approaching life. The first, and most of us live here, is built around the question of how to live life. How do I fix this? How do I get ahead? How do I make sure I don't miss something? And how do I have more? How do more or be more? Now, it sounds reasonable, responsible even, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there are moments when this orientation is exactly what is needed, such as in an emergency, a crisis, a moment where embodied ability, the competence built over years of practice, simply kicks in. In these moments, you don't think, you act from what has been deeply learned. Now, that is not limitation. That is a different kind of intelligence, trained, available, and useful. But here's what happens when this becomes the only orientation, when it is quietly running every moment, not just the emergencies. It turns life and leadership into a problem to be perpetually solved, a performance to be perpetually maintained. It's like constantly chasing your own tail just to arrive somewhere and find it's still not enough. Always performing, always becoming, always needing to be somewhere in a hurry. And when that is the assumption, quietly running the show, we are like a small boat in the ocean, at the mercy of the currents and the weather. Capable, experienced, working hard, and yet we never seem to smell the roses. Now, the second question is different. Not opposite, different. It's built around a different question entirely. Not how to live life, but how life works. And that shift, as subtle as it sounds, changes everything. Because this question doesn't stress you out. It doesn't create a problem to solve or a performance to maintain. It simply opens a quality of attention, a genuine curiosity, an unhurried interest in how things actually arise, in what is really happening, beneath the surface of events. It's like being grounded in the here and now, in flow. And here you don't have to be anywhere in a hurry. You are already where you need to be, already enough, already arrived. And not without direction, not without ambition, but moving from a different place entirely, a place of deeper integrity, of genuine ecology, of real humanity. And here's perhaps the most liberating thing of all. The complexity we spend so much energy trying to manage, we are not separate from it. We are made of it. So the same intelligence that generates the complexity of the world also generates us. We are living adaptive systems arising from the same source. And when we begin to feel that, not just understand it intellectually, but genuinely feel it, we stop trying to control the complexity beast. And instead, we begin to move with it instead, with fluidity, with genuine navigation, with something that feels for the first time like ease. And this is especially true in the world we are living in now, the digital age, the age of artificial intelligence, the age of unprecedented speed and change. So in my mind, the leaders who will navigate this transition most effectively are not the ones with the best strategies. They're the ones with the deepest access to the intelligence that underlies the system itself. The ones who have learned to operate from the source rather than scrambling at the surface. Leonardo da Vinci lived from that place his entire life. He even kept a journal, not of answers, of questions. So you would observe something like a bird in flight, the movement of water, the way light fell through leaves. And he would write the question down. And then he would just keep moving. No rush for the answer, no forcing of understanding. Just genuine curiosity, walking through the world with open eyes. And the answers emerged. Not because he demanded them, but because he created conditions for them to arrive. Now, whether every detail of this story is precisely true, it is still one of the most beautiful illustrations of how this works that I have come across. And here's something else that happens from that orientation. Something I have noticed again and again. When you're living from how life works, genuinely curious, genuinely present, you connect with people differently. Not because you try harder, but because you are meeting them at a different level. Below the performance, below the agenda, below the version of themselves they bring into every other room. You are connecting at a level of what they actually are, at the soul level. And people feel that. And they can't always name it, but they feel it. And the conversation goes somewhere it couldn't have gone otherwise. And also, decisions get made from a different place, not from anxiety or competition or reactive thinking, but from a genuine wisdom, from insight that arrives when the conditions are right. And that quality of wisdom, that quality of connection changes the texture of everything, your leadership, your relationships, your work. Not because you forced it, but because you showed up from a different place. Now, here's the question we're sitting with. If your thinking and your behavior, right now, in your work, in your leadership, your life, if all of that is the answer to a question, what is the question? Now, you don't need to answer that right now. Just let it sit like Da Vinci would and just see what arrives. Now, here's the thing. Life can feel like being in the middle of a storm, or like being caught in a spinning wheel, the noise, the motion, and the relentlessness of it. But here's what most people never discover. In the center of the storm, there is stillness. In the center of the spinning wheel, there's a place that doesn't move. And that place is always there. Not outside the complexity, not away from the life you are living, but right in the middle of it. That is where we settle. That is where we become grounded. And that is where the mind clears. And that is what this work is really about. Not stepping away from the storm, but stepping inside its center and reconnecting with what was always there, your true nature, already whole, already present, already yours. This is what I mean by source over strategy. When you understand the source, when you begin to feel how life actually works from the inside out, the strategy tends to reveal itself naturally, clearly, in a way that is genuinely yours. Not because you forced it, but because you created conditions for it to arise. So that quality of space, that quality of conversation is what I create with the leaders I work with. Not a program, not a methodology, but a conversation that goes where the real thinking lives. A conversation where what you already know finally has room to surface. That quality of space, that's what we create in it together. So you will know if this is for you. You already do. And you know where to find me.